to create a read plan for a student, you're going to start by logging in to Infinite Campus. From here, you're going to search for the student. Go to the Search tab, and then enter the student's name, the student's ID number, or search them in your class roster. Once you find the student, you're going to go to the top Index tab. From the Index tab, you're going to go down to Student Information. From there, you'll go down to PLP, which stands for Personalized Learning Plan, and select General below it. This will now bring you to a summary page of the student information. We're going to go left to right and move from Summary to the Team Members tab. This populates automatically all of the teachers associated with the student in Infinite Campus. If there's anyone you'd like to add, first select Fetch Classroom Teachers to refresh the page, and then select Find and Link New Team Members. From the census, we can choose family members to add to the list or advisor staff. Advisor staff will generally be counselors, deans, other personnel who would be working with the student. If a person needs to be added or deleted from this list, you need to contact me, Lori Stack, in Accountability to have those added or removed. Once you've selected all of the members that you need, you want to be sure to add team members. And I didn't select anybody, so I don't need to worry about it, but they would populate here in this list. Once the team is created, then move to the Documents tab. I can now see all of the plans associated with the student. I can see that they had 2 plans in 2017-18 and 1 plan in 2016-17. However, none of these are read plans, so we're going to create a read plan. Go to New Document, go to Create New Plan, and select the plan that you want. Then go to Create Document, and we're now on the first page of the read plan. Start by entering a start date. And notice the start date is in red. Everything in red must be completed in order for the plan to save. The plan name is going to be Read because it's a read plan. The plan type, if I don't know what to put here, I can select this little icon next to the title and see a bank of templates. When I open Read, I see my options. Since this is the very first read plan for the student, I'm going to select Initial Read Plan. Once I know what goes in here, I can always choose to type it in the future. Otherwise, I can select it from the bank. The same is true for the learning areas addressed. If I don't know what goes there, I can open this up, see my options, make my choices, or just type it in. Notice I did not put an end date. We leave all current plans end dates blank, and this will automatically populate the read flag up here above. If I put an end date, that means I'm ending the plan. When I end the plan, the flag goes away. So always make sure that your current plans have no end date. I'm now ready to save and continue and go to the next page. This is the student demographics section, and there's nothing you need to do here other than refresh the information. The same is true when I go down to the next section, which is parent and guardian information. All I have to do is refresh the page. The next section is the PLP team meeting section. Choose New Team Meeting, and anytime I meet with the family about the read plan, I can put in the date here. Notice it's in red. We must put that date in there in order for this information to save. But I can also put the time, location, and minutes from the meeting. All of the team members that populated when I created the team earlier will appear here, and I can check if they were invited or if they attended. I can also choose in this section to print this in the plan. Once that's complete, I can save it and go on to the next section. I don't have anything to save, so I'm going to go right to the next section, Goals and Objectives. Notice this section is called Goals and Objectives. Right here I have the option to create a new goal. I must create the goal before I can create the objectives. So you just want to remember there's 2 parts to this section. Now some people ask, what's the difference between a goal and an objective? So think of it like this. A goal is a description of a destination, and we know the destination for read plans is proficiency. The objective is the measure of the progress that's needed to get to the destination. So a goal for a read plan would be the mastery of the area of need. An example would be when given a grade level text, student will demonstrate phonological awareness by identifying and creating rhyming words. So that's the goal in order to help the student get proficient. 2 questions to ask yourself would be, in what area does the student need to develop in order to read proficiently? And what does the student need to know and be able to do to be proficient? The objective, on the other hand, would be the measurement of the progress towards the goal. So an example would be, the student will apply knowledge of letter-sound correspondence while reading orally. The student will name all letters of alphabet and tell the corresponding sounds of each. 2 questions to ask yourself here would be, how will student progress towards mastery of the goal be measured? And how will we know the student met their goal? So when we go back to the plan and we're thinking about the goal that we want to write, we're going to create the new goal. We're going to start by sequencing it. So it's the first goal, so we're going to sequence it number 1. And the goal name, we're just going to call it by the area of need that we chose. And we're going to select the template bank and see under read that it says manually enter the student goal. So there aren't a bank of goals to select. You're going to type it in, again, based on what is it that the student needs to work on in order to become proficient. The next sections, associated standard and course, you can ignore. There's nothing that you need to insert in those sections. For current performance, if I select the template bank, I see that it's asking for what universal instruction are we providing to all students in our class. So make the appropriate choices again, or type in what you'd provide to your classroom. Success indicators has no options for read plans. So this is, again, optional. You could choose to put something in there if you think something's appropriate for this plan. Goal assessment criteria is the same thing. There are no choices for read. However, if I'm using a particular assessment and I'm looking for something specific, I might include that as pertinent to this plan. Once I have this information, I can scroll back to the top and save it. Do not select Save and Continue until you've created the objective. Remember, I said there's 2 parts. So you have the goal here. If I select that goal, I now have the option to create the objective. So over here on the right hand side, I'm going to select New Objective. It looks very similar to the creation of the goal. I'm going to sequence it first. It's the first goal. This is the first objective. So it's number 1. The objective name, again, I'm going to name it based on the area of need. And I'm going to first look at the objective. Now, I could write the objective like the examples given earlier, or there are actually minimum reading competencies based on the area of need already developed for you by the state of Colorado. If those are appropriate, if this were a 3rd grader working on phonics skills, I could look at what I'm going to use to measure students' progress in phonics. If these are not what I'm using to measure, I can write my own goal, or my own objective. Instructional strategies. Again, if I open that template bank and look under read, the area of need is phonics. Now I'm going to look at the particular strategies that I can use to support the student making progress on their objective, thus meeting their goal. Again, if none of these apply, I have the option to type it in. Assignments and activities. This is actually the area where we identify how the family is going to support us in help the student meet their objectives. So you choose from this list or type in the ones chosen by the parent, and you can choose as many as you need to. You will just need to type in or select them one at a time. So put in a couple, and again I can make any edits to this that I need. Resources. This section right now has sections for funding, but we're just going to ignore that for now because we're going to actually take these two sections out of the plan. So resources and assessment criteria you do not need to fill out. You also do not need to fill out the test or the accountable teacher. You've already put the teacher in there in the team members tab, so don't duplicate your work. Okay, once now I have created the objective, I'm going to save it, and now I see when I open the goal, there's the objective that I would have typed in. Now I'm ready to go to the next section, which is services. And think of services as the duration and frequency of the intervention. So I'm going to select new service. What is the area in which the student is receiving services? Obviously for read, it's reading. Service provider I can leave blank, but we're going to select the position that this provider is in. So if it's an interventionist, I can just select that there. Notice that this section is in red. It must be completed, but you notice I have a start date and an end date. The reason we have this is because we know that not all interventions last the entire length of the read plan. So put the dates that you anticipate that the student will have met their goal, and so that you can create a new goal if the student still is not proficient. So we're just going to estimate. You can always go back in here and change this date if you need to. So if I set it for 8 weeks out and the student meets the goal in 6 weeks, I can come back in here and change that. I'm going to select the minutes of direct intervention that the student's going to get. Indirect would be anything provided by, say, a para or computer practice that the student has, or anything independent that you're requiring of the student. That would go in the indirect section. For the frequency, I'm going to choose it by week, and I'm going to say it's 3 times a week. This is really important if a student moves to another school and gets a new teacher, and the teacher can actually see not only what you're doing, but how often you're doing it. If I'm doing an intervention once a week and another teacher does the same type of intervention 3 times a week, we're going to get different results. So we want to be sure that we're very specific about that. I can also choose to display it in the printed document, and then I can save it. And again, you can go back in there and add to it or make any changes that you need to at any point. Assessments, I don't need to put anything in here. I can choose to print this in the plan, but it populates all the assessments that the student has ever taken and that are entered in Infinite Campus. So just for your information. Finally, learning attributes. For the strengths, I see that there are no options for read, but you are certainly welcome to enter the student's strengths in this box. The same with needs. We've already pretty much discussed what their area of needs are, but if there are more that you need to add to that, you can certainly put that here. Learner's learning style has to do with the accommodations set up for the student. So if they are receiving any accessibility features or any IEP accommodations, those choices are here. You can choose from these boxes or you can enter your own. And that is the plan. If you return to the Documents tab, you'll now see the most recent plan created. And you can just double click it to open it and view it. Notice that we have the option to lock it. If I select it once and select lock, it'll ask me if I'm sure I want to do that. Yes. When I open it again, I see now that it's got a lock to it. That does nothing to the plan. It's just a visual to let people know that you're finished writing it, that plan's complete and it's active. I can also tell it's active because there's no end date. And again, the next day, the read flag will populate here. If I needed to go into this plan at any time, I could just click it and unlock it. And again, say OK, and I'm back in the plan.